Hi, I'm James Hogan.
And I'm Stacy Miller, and this is the October 2024 edition of Western Wednesdays.
Hello, welcome to Western Wednesdays, the show where we talk to great WCU alumni and learn about their lives. I'm James Hogan, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Engagement here at WCU. With me, Stacy Miller, Director of Alumni Engagement. Stacy, it has been an interesting couple of weeks in Western North Carolina. And by interesting, I mean it's been something that I don't know if we've ever experienced anything like it before.
Indeed. It's been, busy, sad. There have been a lot of people, a lot of alumni, a lot of friends, a lot of community members stepping up and jumping in to help anyone and everyone they can. But it's been a bit overwhelming.
We're talking, of course, about Hurricane Helene that impacted Western North Carolina in an historic way. It's really been the kind of storm where, in hindsight, you look at it and it breaks records, it defies expectations, and it is really, it's changed Western North Carolina forever. Even on a very small part, it's changed Western Wednesdays. You may be noticing this show is coming out later than normal. We had a different episode teed up, ready to go for October that we knew we needed to push pause on and push back a little bit. We'll bring that episode to you in November. But tonight we have a really interesting pair of guests who 3 weeks ago were not on our radar for our Western Wednesdays episode. We've got Jim Rule, class of 72, Western graduate who is the director of the Jackson County Airport, and John Connett, class of 1992.
That's right.
Tell us what John does.
So John not only serves as our Alumni Association Board of Directors president, but also serves his community as the city manager of the town of Hendersonville. So he's been very busy. And I was able to stop in and see John and Lori last week. So glad to have him here in Cullowhee and spend some time with him and hear a little bit about the work that they've been doing.
We're going to talk to Jim and John about their efforts in the Hurricane Helene response. It's going to be, I think, a really good interview. And before we kick it to that interview, I wanted to first of all say that the Cullowhee campus received very minimal damage in Hurricane Helene. There was some damage, but certainly nothing that you saw on the scale that you saw in Buncombe County, Haywood County, Henderson County. What we do have, though, are a lot of our students and our employees who have been impacted by Hurricane Helene, students and employees who lost housing. Their cars were flooded. They may have lost a laptop, technology, things that needed to go to class. We know that some of our students had to work part-time jobs in order to make ends meet, to buy groceries, and those jobs went away because of the hurricane. Maybe they work somewhere that's no longer able to be open. Western, I'm really proud to say, has done a good job of trying to help our students and trying to help our employees as well. And we've been able to do that through two emergency funds, the Student Affairs Emergency Fund, as well as the Employee Emergency Assistance Fund. And to put it just very plainly, we have a lot of need. I think our Dean of Students, Betsy Aspinwall, told me there have been hundreds of applications to the Student Affairs Emergency Assistance Fund, and almost a third of our employees live in affected areas, and many of our students do too. We've been overwhelmed with the wonderful response to these emergency funds, and we want to continue asking for your help. You can give online by going to give.wcu.edu/emergency. And that will take you to a page where you can support the Student Emergency Fund as well as the Employee Emergency Fund. Both of those critical needs for us right now, and we appreciate anything that you can do as a listener or a viewer of Western Wednesdays.
And as always, if you have any trouble at all finding that page, finding that link, you can email us at alumni@wcu.edu, and we'd be most happy to help you navigate to that.
That would be incredible. So let's get right to our interview with Jim Rule and John Conant. Jim Rule, John Conant, thank you for joining us here on Western Wednesdays. Thanks for joining us on short notice. And because we're recording this episode just now 2 weeks almost after Hurricane Helene impacted Western North Carolina and certainly has changed so much here in this part of our state. So thank you both for being here. I want to start off, Jim, by asking you a question. We were here over the weekend, part of a crisis emergency management committee that exists with the campus leadership. And we just met. We were trying to get a couple of things stood back up on campus, trying to get the phones working, trying to get communications out of Cullowhee.
Been there, done that.
And
in this building.
We felt like we were in the dark, which was a disconcerting feeling to be cut off. And at the end of it, Shane Stovall stands up and walks over to me and says, "I need to talk to you." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "I just got a call that there is an aircraft inbound to the Jackson County Airport. And I need you to help me figure out what to do with it." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It's an aircraft and they're bringing supplies. What do we need to do?" So, Jim, you're the director of the Jackson County Airport.
Yeah, I'm the airport manager up there and sit on the airport authority that sort of manages it. Read that to be volunteer airport manager.
Volunteer airport manager.
I pick up the trash. I keep the lights on.
And
Okay.
when you first get a call, we're inbound, we're coming.
No, didn't quite happen that way. I had gone up there on a Sunday afternoon with my grandkids and just to make sure everything was good and, And I'm inside the gate, and everything's looking fine, and I'm thinking, man, we really dodged a bullet here. I think we're good to go. And I see 3 guys standing over at the walk-through gate, not the drive-through gate, trying to get in. And one of them has a veteran's hat on, and they're older. They're not the normal college kids that I see trying to get through my gate.
Yeah.
This looks a little different. So I went over and I said, "Guys, what's going on?" And they said, "Well, we're here to unload supplies." And I looked at them and I spun around and I looked at the ramp and I didn't see anything that resembled supplies there. And I turned back around and I opened the gate and I said, "Come on, let's talk a little bit, And so they were from a veterans group. It was Tom Baker, and he's the president of the Jackson County Veterans Group. And they'd gotten a call and said some folks were going to fly in some supplies. Could they meet them on the other end and get them where they needed to go? So we had, I don't know, I can't tell you exactly. We have a new system to count airplanes and operations up there, but it was down on Sunday and Monday, so we got no numbers out of it those 2 days. But I think 6 or 8 planes came in before dark, and by the time the airplanes had arrived, other veterans in their group had been called on the phone, and they started showing up. And it was kind of a small thing. That's the way it started.
That's the way it started. And so that first airplane rolls up, and it's just stuff that they've threw in the airplane and brought up.
Well, and some of them are experienced people who know what you need in a hurricane.
Yeah.
Or after a hurricane.
And that weekend, so hurricane comes through on Friday. That weekend, I-40 closed in multiple places.
East and west.
East and west, going into Tennessee, going over Old Fort, that Black Mountain area. There were some areas in Asheville where it was closed. 26, John, was closed.
It was. Couldn't get past Oakwood Road there in Hendersonville. That's right.
And on the other end in Tennessee,
that's right.
After you dropped over and down into Tennessee, the bridge was large.
So, John, tell us in Hendersonville sort of what that weekend started off looking like for you.
Yeah, I mean, let me back up even a little further. We had been in contact as we prepared for the storm, and we had the rain a couple days before, and then they were storming. It really hit home. The national weather started using terms like the benchmark in Western North Carolina for natural disasters is the 1916 flood. And early in the week, they were saying this could top the 1916 flood. So that got our attention real quick. And so we, just the storm came and it hit, and it was every bit of, just watching it come in, watch the water rise. It was surreal. It really was surreal. And then
Helpless feeling.
It was. And then trying to have to rescue people and get folks out of their homes and get them to shelters. And, part of our community was cut off. Asheville was cut off. And, all up in anybody on the French Broad Valley and through the Swannanoa River, it really was surreal. I've been through it one other time in eastern North Carolina back in 1999 with Hurricane Floyd. And when you're cut off, it really becomes like a war zone, and it's you feel helpless because you can't do anything. You're starting to think, all right, how are we going to survive this? So,
yeah. So, John, you had that preparation, those days, and that heads up of what they were comparing this to. What was the impact to Hendersonville specifically? And how you guys started that response.
So it really, we had the rain ahead of the hurricane of Helene, and so everywhere in town that floods started flooding with the rain ahead of it, right? So we watched that. We opened our emergency operations center that Thursday morning, 2 full weeks ago at 8 a.m. and put our teams to work, and we watched the water rise, and then we got the lull overnight, and then the storm came in. So it really was water rise. There was a lull period there, and then the storm came in, and the ground was saturated, and the trees. I was riding around town today, the first time in 2 weeks that I've been able to get out in my city to ride around and take a look and just look at the trees that were down. And of course, it took power out immediately. 95% of our county was without power. And then once the power went out and the trees went down, then the rain continued and the flooding came, and it really cut off the community, and everybody was in the dark. Right. And we had to figure out we started getting the 911 calls to rescue people. We heard on what was going down in Lake Lure and Bat Cave in that area, and that's what we were hearing. And the same thing was going on in Spruce Pine and Mitchell County, Yancey County, and everybody it was all hands on deck. Everybody that could get out and help. And that's one of the things I think we'll talk in the next little while about is Western North Carolina. The folks were pretty independent folks, and we want to take care of ourselves. And I think that's what's great about our region. And neighbors were helping neighbors, and it was all hands on deck response. And once the light came up the next day, you had all the emergency folks out, but neighbors were out in the middle of the night that day helping their neighbors get out of harm's way. And so I think it was lots of great response from the public safety folks all across the region, particularly the folks that I work with. And I know we all can say that, but also just Western North Carolina people really jumped in.
It was amazing. It's been amazing here. It really has been. We were looking at it, and I'm watching the hurricane track, and it's pointed at Chattanooga. Mm-hmm. When it was pointed at Chattanooga, and that would be taking it west of Atlanta, had it stayed on that path, we would have gotten that stuff. And
in Jackson County.
And I had set years ago in planning for the 100-year flood on campus, and we talked about what would happen upstream when all the stuff in the floodplain came down and clogged the bridges upstream of campus and stopped and laked it up, and then the bridges gave way, and then it came down, and where it would be on campus, and and that was the 100. It didn't touch what happened to you all. I mean, it just
Now
it
we're
was
talking about
not anything.
1,000-year flood,
Oh, that's
not
exactly
100-year
right.
flood.
Yeah,
Exactly.
When when folks started using the term biblical
Yeah,
flood,
absolutely.
that was a wake up call for me
Yeah.
in terms of that. John, I'm just curious. We lost outbound communications around noon on Friday here, maybe 12:30. Was that about this? I know that power went down pretty quick, I'm sure, that morning. What about cell access,
Oh, yeah.
internet access?
We went dark. I mean, we were dark for 3 or 4 days. Really, the cell service went down. We through the years, in local government, we used to all have radios, right? We all used to have the two-way radios, and over the years with cell phones, we've gotten away with them. We've taken them out of trucks, and we rely on the internet for data and monitoring water plants and monitoring pump stations and things like that. And we lost all that.
Mm-hmm.
We were totally dark, and so that meant we had to get people out looking, and we were dark for a period of time, and it really was tough. And it must have been Saturday night or so. We realized that we weren't going to have communications, and we sent some folks to Gastonia to Best Buy to buy Starlinks. Right? I mean, we knew
You already got him on the road.
yeah,
and
we were
said,
like,
we need to go.
we got to. We had luckily the Charlotte Fire Department had sent one of their rescue teams up to work with us with Swift Rescue, and they had a Starlink that they carried with them there, and they were going to have to pull out and go towards Spruce Pine and leave us and go somewhere else. So we were going. That was our form of communication for a while, but we were going to lose them, and so we were like, all right, let's go to Best Buy, buy 3, 4, bring them back to us, and we ended up deploying them around our organization at the water plant and other places. That's really how we communicated, and we found our old radio vendor who had radios, and we went and got them, and we're like, all right, we're going to reinvest.
We need these
and
back.
We need those back. So yeah, we were dark, but once we got back into communication, we started really ramping things up. But yeah, the storm was bad, the flooding was bad, but the lack of communication was really put us all on edge.
Technology is a great thing until it's not.
That's exactly
Right. We talked a little bit, about that, here on campus.
Right.
And, we had students here, and it's been a very long time since parents and students have had to work and go without communicating. But I want to say work for communication and go without communicating with each other, right? A student might choose not to check in a
Right.
certain day with mom or dad, but
Yeah.
mom can find them, right?
Yeah.
Or dad, and can
Right.
check in, or at least see that text was delivered,
Right.
whether it's responded to or not, right? And so not being able to do that, there were a lot of fears amongst our community, both directions.
Well, let me tell you that Sunday when I went up, it was Sunday when I went up there. I'd gone up there on Saturday, the day before, and as I went up the road to the airport, there were cars parked on both sides of the road. And I thought, what? And just room for me to go up the middle. And I got up there, and we got a parking lot that holds 30 cars, something like that. Every parking place was taken. There were like 200 students out there, and they all had their cell phones up to their ear. And I didn't have cell service at home, and I didn't have internet. I had electricity, but I didn't have those things. And I'm looking around, and as I pulled up, I rolled the window down to punch the code in to go in the gate, and this student said to me, "Would you like the passcode for the internet?" I said, I think I'm good on that.
The other place that worked apparently was the electronics section in Walmart. And it was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. I walked into the Silva Walmart. You walk all the way to the back, and same thing. There were 400 students
Oh, with their
and
phones
community
up.
people, like word gets out. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know, one of our employees here in Advancement, Tanner Norman, said that apparently there was a 100-yard stretch going up Balsam that had the same thing. And there were traffic jams, people, because that was the only way you could get a phone call out. Jim, I know that airplanes don't use cell phones. They still use radios. When did it become clear to you? And I guess maybe that's when the radio.
About day three.
Day
No,
three.
I'm up there.
This
you
is
know,
becoming much more than just a couple of planes and some
exactly.
veterans.
I'm up there. We finish up the day on Sunday. I'm up there early on Monday, and Crystal Cochran, who was the second in command in the, she's really the first in command, but the second in command of the veterans group, the leader of the veteran group had to go to a wedding somewhere, and so he left, and he left her in charge. And that's the best thing he ever did. I mean, she just went crazy, and she got in contact with tons of people to come up and volunteer, and the word spread, and now we got 100 people up there standing around
Amazing.
looking for airplanes. And when the count of incoming aircraft, and I say aircraft because of a few helicopters, but
Sure.
mostly aircraft, reached 70, I said, this is a different animal.
This is
Then-
a thing.
Then we had to organize it because we don't have a taxiway. So when you land, and we have them land on 3-3 because it's slightly uphill. They're loaded. That helps them slow down, doesn't use up their brakes. But then they have to turn around, taxi back down to get to the ramp. Okay, so now it's starting to build, and I'm saying, I can't worry about the ramp now, which is where you park the planes. I've got to worry about the people in the air and the runway and this sort of thing. Luckily, I had flown into Oshkosh. Are you familiar with what Oshkosh is? It's in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
It's in Wisconsin.
They have a big
It's
air
right
show
by the lake.
there.
It is the biggest in the United States
Yeah.
every year. For 1 week, 1/10 of all the flyable airplanes in the world are at that airport.
That's incredible.
There are warbirds, and there are ultralights where the guy just hangs under the wings and flies around, and there is everything in between. And I flew in there with my little airplane one time. It's a very complex thing. You read the book in advance. They don't talk to you. The controllers talk to you, but you don't talk back. They see you through binoculars, and they say, "Purple, Cherokee 180, rock your wings." And when you rock your wings, they know you heard them, and you don't talk. You just keep going. And then they tell you, "You're number 4 to land on the red dot." And there are 4 dots on this runway, and there are 4 planes landing at the same time.
Wow.
It is pretty uptight stuff. So I did that. My partner's gone in there a couple of times, and I've gone up to watch it a couple of times. So I know a little bit about aircraft control in a civilian way, not a military way, without a tower.
Right.
Right?
How to be the air boss, which is what
Somebody's
they call
gotta
it.
be the air boss.
Somebody's got to be the air boss.
In a situation like this.
Yeah, so I said, "Crystal, you got to worry about these people." Well, Crystal had to worry about where their supplies are going to, what they got loaded into, that, because we're trying to get them as close to Henderson County as we can, as close to Bat Cave as we can, as close, we know where the hot spots
Sure.
are. But Crystal kept the supplies moving from the aircraft to the trucks properly, and I tried to keep the airplanes apart and the props and the people apart so that we didn't have, so we didn't add to the problem.
Now, real quick, I think probably anybody who's a WC alumnus,
As an English major,
well, all of our alumni, I'm sure, at some point, everybody makes a drive up to the Cullowhee Airport,
Right.
to the Jackson County Airport.
Right.
So most everybody knows what we're talking about. But in
Yep.
case you don't, this is like a 3,000 foot,
3,200 feet.
200 foot runway,
Right.
which is not long.
No.
Not
No.
long in
No.
terms of,
No.
and there's no control tower. There's,
No.
you're
So-
talking about 2 kind of like hills on a mountain that kind of got shoved together to make one
Exactly.
relatively flat stretch.
Right.
That
Let me
is
put it in perspective. We have about 20, an operation is a landing or a takeoff. We have about 2,600 operations a year, and that works out to about 50 a week, or 215-ish a month. And it's hard to, or a daily average of about 7, okay? Now you have to it's misleading because some days it's raining and foggy and sleeting.
You can't
and there's
land.
And
Yeah.
there's nobody up there, And some days it's just gorgeous and the leaves are turning, or it's summer and there's 30 to 50 operations a day. But to put it in perspective, we have had in the 11-day period 841 operations up there, which means we've had about 425 different aircraft in 11 days. The busiest day for that was last Friday, and we had 188 operations. Now, mind you, those operations don't start when the sun comes up because the fog's setting up there.
That's right.
So it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock before we can say you're clear to come in. And then they go nonstop until it gets dark. And then I try to stop them at dark because I don't have a lot of light on the ramp to see where everybody is. It gets real scary
Sure.
for me.
Sure.
And we got all the little stuff out, and then the big stuff starts coming in, but anyway, so that in the 9 hours or so, we did 188 different operations. That's one aircraft operation every 2 minutes and 52 seconds. And Asheville normally does one every 6 minutes and 30 seconds.
and that's a commercial airport
Yes.
That's
with major
timing them.
airlines. Yeah.
And so that was,
Because they did not come in every 2 minutes and anything
It
seconds
wasn't
on
like
Friday.
Well, now's a good time to point out that I joked with Stacy before we came up to do this. You're not just a host this time; you're a guest because at some point Stacy
she
Miller,
was in the middle of it.
right in the middle, she's on her way to becoming a fixed base operator herself,
Exactly.
and you find yourself up there. You were in the middle of it, and with a lot of other volunteers from this community. Just Stacy, tell real quick, just who was up there and how did you guys organize?
Yeah. So, for me, as John mentioned, being from Eastern North Carolina, you've been through a lot of hurricanes, for sure. And so hearing that, we've lived here for 14 years, I wasn't really expecting a hurricane like this to come through. And so you immediately jump in and react. And John talked about the type of people that are in Western North Carolina and what it means to be part of Appalachia, right? And so not only do we, want to take care of ourselves, but really want to take care of each other. And so I was sitting in the office, actually with Sam, talking to Sam Wallace, and I got a text that said, hey, can you be at the Jackson County Airport in the next 10 minutes? I didn't know what for, but sure, absolutely, I can do that. And Sam said, hey, can I go with you? Yeah, sure, come on. So we went up there and unloaded a couple of airplanes and came back to campus, dropped off the teammates, and I just went back up there. And I didn't leave until Sunday when I left for the Catamount women's soccer game. That game is at 2:00. I left at 12:30 to go help unload the stuff that Citadel brought. And so, you just got sucked in, and it was easy to jump in and do anything that you felt like you could do, right? It's hard. We talked a little bit about like survivor's guilt, right? And, we knew we were prepared for it to come our way.
It missed us by 20 miles.
And it missed us by 20 miles. And you're seeing all of this devastation and this, these awful photos and videos coming, and we know that there are people, even if they didn't graduate from Western, even if they're not there, they are our people. There are people of Western North Carolina, And we pride ourselves here at Western. We talk about it all the time that we are about community and we are about family. And so I think those instincts just kicked in for all of us around here, all of our alumni in the area, our staff that were here and available, and our community. And so it was fun to be able to do that, right? And it was impactful. There was nothing, fun's a hard word to use because there's nothing about it that was fun knowing why you were doing it, but it was really impactful and meaningful to feel like you were partnered up with those people, right? I'd never met
And
Jim.
we found a way to laugh. We
We
found
did.
a way to make
I never,
it,
yeah, and I never
to
met
make it
Jim.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
But I just spent lots of days with him, and now now
And-
we have a great relationship, and it was great to meet so many people.
Right.
And where the fun and the joy did come in was the first. I wore my Western stuff up there because I wear it everywhere. I get picked on all the time. Like, do you own anything that's not Western?
purple.
Well, not a lot actually. A lot of purple. But I had a young pilot come in and I asked where they were from, and they were from Davidson, Lexington, North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, really? I taught public school there at North Davidson." He's like, "I graduated from North Davidson." "Oh, did you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then you have a shirt on that says Western. Then I went to Western. So that was cool, right? That
Right.
Western connection. This guy is in Lexington, North Carolina, flew out of Statesville, and came out. So
We had alumni pilots.
did.
I know we had student athletes up there at the airport helping.
we did.
Every team.
it was extraordinary.
I would look around, I would look back, and there would be the soccer team. And
Sure.
I would turn around, and I'd look back, and there would be the football team. And I could tell the difference. And then there would be the volleyball team. And then I said, well, who are all these people? And it was the track
Right.
team and the
Right, right.
cross-country team.
Yeah.
And the basketball team and the baseball team. And they didn't come for long stretches because they have other things going on.
Sure.
But they would come and kind of serve a shift. And when they got there, the line of people would turn purple.
It- Yeah.
As
Yeah.
they were working. And we had so many volunteers. We weren't efficient, and we didn't try to be efficient, okay? An airplane lands, and there's 150 people there. 75 of them form a line, and they pass these supplies down the line, so they all get to participate. And then the next airplane that lands, the other 75 are passing these things down the line. I'm standing there with a pilot, and he goes, whoa, 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 and quits talking to me, and he goes running over. He said, that's my quart of oil, and that's my headset. I said, you got to supervise when they unload your plane, because if it's not nailed down, it's going
They're
out
getting
of there.
donated. Yeah. Well,
We had those moments.
folks who don't know me may not know, I'm from Statesville. We moved up here from Statesville. I have a ton of friends in the Charlotte area, and what was really remarkable to me was I was seeing on social media the other side of it. I'm seeing so many people that I know driving to the Statesville Regional Airport, filling up a private hangar with bottled water, with provisions, with canned goods, with diapers, with all kinds of things they know that we need up here. And I see photos from the Concord Airport as well, and Hickory, Lincoln County.
Lincoln. What happened there was at Lincoln County Airport, somebody said, I will pay for all of the fuel.
No
Okay?
kidding. My
And
gosh.
so suddenly you had a lot of young people who were trying to build hours, who were already private pilots and who were trying to build hours, and they normally just have to go fly around. Now they had a mission, and they had somebody to pay for the fuel. Well, we had a couple that were, they weren't a couple. We thought they were a couple. It was a male and a female. She was 20, he was 21, and they made, I believe, 18 trips from Lincolnton into the Jackson County Airport bringing stuff. And near the end of it, somebody finally asked a question and said, are you boy and girlfriend? And they said, no, we're just pilot buddies. And we said, well, that's a shame because we already have you married and your children now.
You've gotten to know them now. Like,
They were our babies. They were our
Right.
children,
Yeah.
you know.
18 trips.
So they started to run out of donated fuel, okay?
Yeah.
My daughter lives in Houston, and she's been through some big hurricanes while she's architect down there. And so she's like me. She doesn't have a ton of money, but she works for high-end clients. And they were all saying, what can we do? What can we do? She started a GoFundMe. In 48 hours, I had $5,000 to use to buy fuel for these airplanes. I wasn't buying it for the people who could afford it, but I was buying it for the people who were doing it and needed a little help.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'd say, do you need help with your fuel? And they would say, yeah.
So, Jim, all of this is an incredible civilian response, a lot of donations, a lot of folks stepping up to help out. And John, you're sitting from a local government side.
Yes.
And I don't know if people think about the different structures in government, local, county, state, federal governments. When they need help, they need somebody to pick up the phone and come as fast as they can to bring aid. As city manager in Hendersonville, what were some of the resources that you were working with, and how, as a city, were you working to respond to folks who needed you?
Yeah, so like I said, I've been through several hurricanes in my career, and it's pretty common knowledge that during a natural disaster, local governments, you're on your own for 5 to 7 days. I mean, people. The media likes to play up FEMA and play the state government, but reality is the local communities, we're on our own.
It takes time to mobilize.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we relied on our staff and our people, and it was all hands on deck. And I'll say people got put in positions that they don't normally get put in. And same thing for Henderson County, our county partners. The chief building inspector took over transit for the county, and she was, making sure we were moving people to shelters and those kind of things. So it really had the resources we have. And I have to give the local government employees in our county and city, we took them away from their families, and some of them had trees on their houses and no power at home, and families. But it really was our local government employees, police, fire, public works, all the way down to HR, who just everybody came in like here at the university, right? Came in and really helped us staff our emergency operations center and let the trained folks go out and do the rescues and cut trees and those kind of things. But we were cooking. We went basically 24-hour. We were working 24/7, cooking meals for our folks, as we wanted to make sure that they had the energy they need. We bought air mattresses, and we were able to put them in the fire station where they could sleep, get some rest, and shower and those kind of things. Because either one, they couldn't go home because they couldn't get there, or two, we needed them to be close by, so we wanted to make sure we took care of them. And even to the fact that they were working, at least 12-hour shifts, and with a curfew, they couldn't go to the grocery store. We had to work with the grocery stores to have special hours so that
and to get the food there.
And they could go in and feed their families. We had to set up special arrangements to get fuel to the cars. I mean, for a while, it was a lot of touch and go, a lot of coordination. It became like a military operation. It really, for us, we had planning staff doing logistics. They were calling around, finding fuel, calling around, finding folks to bring food, those kind of things. So it got to be a well-oiled machine at the end, but it was a little bit of a slow start there. But it was absolutely every hand we had was doing something to help the community, and we were working very closely with our county government. But yeah, because we were on our own. We did have that one swift rescue team. We had some assets come in from outside, but we were on our own for 5 to 7 days before we really started seeing folks. And it took that long for people to be able to get into the county, right? Get to us. So.
Right, and and to your point, that question of why weren't they prepared, right? And it's like you have all the planning and all the policies, procedures in place, and you plan, and you have procedures and policies for the unforeseeable, but this was so far beyond that, that you have to create those kind of on the fly,
That's
right? And having a good team that, that is made up of all of those people that will just jump in and do anything is key in those moments. And that's what all of you guys did.
Stacy, you mentioned, we have plans for things like this. John, I know the city has put together contingency plans. Typically in an emergency like this, it happens, we respond, and then we move on from there. I'm sure at this point, we're reaching a point of transition now in this response. We're 2 weeks out tomorrow. We're recording this on a Thursday, almost 2 weeks after the hurricane. You'll hear it later. Where's the city right now? What transitions are you making in terms of how you're reacting and what comes next?
So really. So the crisis, the immediate emergency is we're past it or almost past it, right? There's still a little bit of rescue and recovery kind of going on, but for the most part, we're past it. Now comes, the adrenaline starts to drop, but now comes the work. I spent a good bit of the day riding around Hendersonville looking at, how do we rebuild homes? How do folks that have lost their homes, how do we make sure that they're getting back adequate housing? There's lots of debris, whether it's construction debris from flooded housing to vegetative, all the trees. So it will take weeks and months and, roads that are washed out, water and sewer that has to be repaired. It will be, we've been in this 2 weeks. My guess is we'll still be talking about some of this a year from now, if not 2 years from now.
Yeah.
As we're making it will go off the front page of the paper. It'll drop down in the news cycle, but there'll be lots of work that'll happen the next 18 to 24 months that will be tied back to Helene, and that's where we're shifting. And we've got to get the communities. I will say this: we've got to get the communities back to a rhythm. Get some kind of the citizens need some kind of normal day to day, and they expect that. We'll focus on that going forward, but also making the recovery and the repairs. We talk about it with our staff. We're running parallel paths. We got the recovery piece, but we also got to have events. We've got to get parks open so that people can get back in some sense of normalcy. One of the biggest things, we ended our curfew today, both in Hendersonville and the city, so that we can have high school football.
Good.
So that is, that was all right, how are we going to do this? We opened our mini golf last Saturday, and we'll do it again this Saturday, and we have a mini golf course there in Hendersonville, and it's free. Just letting people get out, be with their families. And so, again, we're still recovering, still a long way to go, but we're in it together, and we're going to make it. And I think that's the message for everybody in Western North Carolina is we're going to get through this. They got through the 1916 flood, and this region is strong, and we're going to come out better.
We're definitely going to come out better on the other end communication-wise.
Absolutely.
We have learned our lesson, haven't we?
We have, and I think, and let me put a plug. I would be remiss if I didn't say this, and I think this institution and this university will play a role in that. I think our brand it continues to grow, and I think this is a great opportunity. We will need engineers, we'll need construction managers, we will need business people. This university will continue to serve this region well, and this is a great opportunity to do that. And so I want to put a plug in for our home institution. I love it, but I think it is an anchor institution in the region, and going forward, it will serve as that anchor institution for the region, and we'll all benefit from what's going on here in Coley.
John, one thing that we've talked a lot about on our campus and in our office is, that sensitivity of bringing guests and visitors and tourists in, right? We know what our communities are going through, and we know the challenge that faces them, and that's a very sensitive topic, and that's hard sometimes to really, make that decision on what really is the right next step for that. But we talked a little bit about Jackson County being green. We've talked about that in in our office. So from your perspective, how can folks navigate that who are sensitive to that and want to be respectful of the communities and what they're going through, but also wanting to come and spend money to support those communities in their efforts to come back?
Yeah, so I think a couple other things. There's always going to be folks that don't agree with decisions we make. Let's just in my role, I'll be second guessed for decisions that I made, and that's just the world we live in. Let me say this: I think, the university had to make a tough decision this past weekend, for the football game where we didn't allow fans, and that was a tough decision. Understand it, respect it, but also I think this decision when we will have played the Citadel by the time you hear this. I think the right decision is to bring fans back. We have got to. For our business community, they're going to need money to rebuild.
And for our psyche.
Yeah. I mean, we need it. We need it. I mean, I know I'm looking forward to the Citadel game just because I need a break. I need to think about something other than Helene. And I look forward to the Furman game and then homecoming after that and things that are coming down the road. So It is a fine line. We've got to be careful. People coming to the region, I just ask that you be patient, you be mindful, realize that, there may be extra lines or the store that you want to be open may not be open, but just be respectful and realize what the community is going through and we're all in it together, and let's just, again, all I can say is realize what we're going through, but let's come together as the Western family and support the region.
I think you said it really well. This university has a role to play in it. And I think we talk a lot about being a regional comprehensive university. Most people don't really use that phrase very often, and that's understandable. It's a higher ed term, but it really is a university that's there to serve the needs of a region. And I think this tragic event has made that role very clear to me, and I think to a lot of folks. Before we started recording, Jim was sharing a story about how he was an English major directing a Chinook helicopter flown by Army National Guard members. Jim, you've provided me with a new example of all the cool things that an English major can do with an English degree from Western Carolina University. That, to me, is probably the biggest win of this whole process of you and a radio and a twin rotor
radio and no helmet, no equipment.
Really big
standing out there
chopper.
giving orders to a huge helicopter. And the amazing thing was they were taking them.
Well, it's because you were well spoken. That was it. You were a Western English
and we
major.
made it work. And when they shut the thing down, after we unloaded 10 pallets of stuff, they let 150 people come out there and climb around in the helicopter. They stayed an extra 15 minutes until I had too many airplanes. I said, yeah, you need to go, because they're sitting on the runway.
Absolutely.
Well, I got a photo somebody texted to me from the airport. Jim has met my son because he hosted a bunch of Boy Scouts up at Jackson County Airport and took them on fun rides around.
Aviation Merit Badge.
Aviation Merit Badge. I got a photo at some point during all of this of my son sitting in the cockpit, and I thought, don't let him sit there too long. He'll figure out how to take off. He's got the Merit Badge. So, golly. Well, both of you truly have done incredible work. And as alumni, let me just say that we are so proud of you, and we're so grateful for the fact that you rose to the occasion in a time when a lot of people needed you to. And that's a hard and difficult thing to do. There's a lot of work and exhaustion behind it, and you didn't do it alone, but you did it. And if nothing else, let me just say that's exactly what this university is about.
Absolutely.
And
That's the way
its
we
people.
feel, too. It's
That's right.
not we carry umbrella. It's Western Carolina.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's it. Those are two extraordinary catamounts, and I know that they are among many alumni who were in the field,
Yes.
helping,
Yes.
taking care of neighbors.
I don't know how they're still standing.
Yeah.
with the amount of hours and the work that they've put in. But, what great examples of alumni and catamounts, right?
And you too, by the way. I know that we texted a lot during the hurricane and afterward, and you were up at the airport a whole bunch, obviously. And I know that there were so many others. I've heard stories of WCU parents who were sending their students back to campus with a car full of supplies. So many great stories. Before we close this episode down, I definitely want to give an opportunity to just recognize the incredible lift that's happened on campus to respond to this. There were a handful of things that just happened, and people who showed up got things going. Our leadership team obviously met every single day for hours to make sure that our students were taken care of and they were safe. I learned in this response, Western has a 2 million gallon water reserve. We can use that in terms of keeping campus with clean, potable water. Very much because you've worked a lot with Chief Lillard, our WCU police force. They were there every single day. They were making sure our students were safe and taken care of. We had student workers in the dining halls. If they were here, they were showing up. I remember I was in the cafeteria and there was a Starbucks employee there. Usually they're at Starbucks, but today they were like at the hamburger line of the cafeteria.
We've had a great time with some of them. They're so resilient. They really are. And they've handled all of this the best that you can imagine. And I even had a conversation with a Starbucks employee the other day that all of the people who normally come in across the hours were all there at the same time. And it's a little weird that we're all here at the same time, but I'm proud of those students and proud of the leadership that we have on this campus and all that they did to support our Catamount students.
Shout out to Chris Williams, who is our Chief Information Officer. He and his team were able to put together an internet connection when the entire Western region was dark. We had no communications out, and Chris's team was able to get us some bandwidth and allow our students to be able to call home, allow our students to get back onto Wi-Fi. I know that seems like a superficial thing until you've got thousands of students who can't call their mom, and their moms are panicking. So that was a huge lift there. I know that the Dean of Students office was busy taking care of student emergencies. And that gives us another opportunity just to mention those 2 emergency funds that we talked about at the beginning of this episode. give.wcu.edu/emergency. Those dollars are going right into our students' hands in a very critical time. So your gifts right now can impact our students right now at a time where we're trying to keep them on their feet as we finish out this fall semester.
That's right. Speaking of, you mentioned that, you mentioned campus being dark and Western region being dark, but Jackson County is now green. And for those of you who are unaware of what that means, Western North Carolina region has put out a map, color-coded, for the preference on visitors and tourists to our area. So Jackson County has gone green, meaning we are fully welcoming tourists and visitors and asking you to please come and visit and shop local. Gas up maybe before you get here, but come and stay in our hotels, stay in Airbnbs, and support our local townspeople who need you, a lot of them, to put food on their own tables. And
it's a difficult needle to try and thread. We know that. It's hard for some folks to hear that message. We want to be sensitive to folks who are in terrible shape. But again, we do have business owners, small business owners, mom and pop shops here that will really appreciate your help. And this is the time of the year where they really, really need your support. And one great opportunity for you to come visit is to come home for homecoming.
That's right.
It's coming up quick.
It's coming up quick, just a few weeks away, November 1st through the 3rd. We've gotten lots of questions. Is homecoming still happening? And absolutely. And what a better time to be together and just help each other through all of this. It's been challenging on us. It's been challenging on our neighboring counties and, in our community. But it's been hard for several alumni and friends who aren't here. They're worried about a lot of people and parts of our community that they cherish so much. And so please come home for homecoming. Join us. You can visit alumni.wcu.edu for the activities and events happening throughout homecoming weekend. Register for the Friday night Alumni Central downtown Silva that will be going on right after the annual homecoming parade. So please come out, make sure you're here for the parade, support the students who are putting so much into that parade, and then we'll have homecoming football on Saturday.
The Alumni Awards Brunch right before that as well. And so many things to celebrate. I know, again, in times like these, it seems that we shouldn't be celebrating, but I hope that this weekend brings our alumni some comfort, some reassurance, and reminds them of why this region, why this university, and why this alumni family is so special.
That's right.
Folks, thank you for taking time to tune in to us for this. Thanks for waiting for this episode to drop. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Please like, share, follow, subscribe, all the social media things. And as always, we want to thank Sam Wallace, Charlie Bola, and all the production staff behind Western Wednesdays. Y'all stay safe, take care of your neighbors, and as always, go Cats.